everybody on YouTube. It's Wingnut. And I wanted to cover something that is quite unique. I was tooling around on the internet and I found a thing about the Oregon Trail generation. Now, the reason I am sitting still and talking about this right now is for safety purposes. I want to be able to read this to you and it makes sense. And of course, as always, there will be a link in the subscription below. The Oregon Trail generation, sometimes referred to as Xennials, but also as Cold Y generation, is a term referring to those born during the Generation X Millennials cusp years, typically from 1977 to 1983. It's named after the video game The Oregon Trail, the Apple IIe version, which was played by many of the Oregon Trail generation in their school computer labs. So, it's interesting enough, I was born in 1981. I've never considered myself to be a Gen Xer really, and I've never really considered myself to be a millennial. So I thought it was quite interesting that this would pop up. Like I said, I was just happening to be tooling around, and basically what it's saying is we, this little small subset, we don't really fit in to the Gen Xers or the Millennials, which I don't know about that. I think it's all about personal opinion, really, as far as that goes. But it's been the phrase has been used several times, and it's got several other names besides what I've called it. And what it's describing is those that had a analog childhood and a digital adulthood. So, for instance, I just said that the Apple IIe, I remember using those computers up until my 7th grade year in high school, or middle school. And in high school, I took a computer class, and we used Windows 3.1 that we loaded from DOS. If you'd have told me in 1995, when I was 14, that I would have a phone that could do everything and more than the, computers of the day could do in just a few short years, I wouldn't have believed you 100%, because, it was just not how life was. As far as that goes, I thought you were talking about Star Trek. So, well, does it really matter? I guess is what I'm getting at, is to your generation that you belong to. Huh? Does it matter if you're an Oregon Trail generation, a Gen Xer, a millennial? There are people who, like the baby boomers, the greatest generation, which was my grandfather's generation, my father, who is a baby boomer, and then my oldest sister and I, who fall under this Oregon Trail generation. I missed the shift. But anyways, we fall into this little cusp, so to speak, and it makes you wonder, does it really matter? Apparently it does to some folks, for a number of reasons, but a lot of it is just personal acceptance. And I don't know, I kind of feel that I fall into this because grunge music kind of was on its way out when I hit into high school, and I can remember still having dial-up internet when I first joined the Navy in '99, and broadband internet wasn't a thing everywhere until the mid 2000s, actually towards the late 2000s, really. You take into account that I still had broadband as we know it now. And there was a time when dial-up was high-speed internet, so that term's never really going to go away. So it's quite interesting, really. how people define themselves, and define themselves based on certain things. Technology of the era, the type of cars, events that have happened. There are people who are joining the military now that were born in the year 2000. Their entire conscious being have remembered the conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, from toddler on. Whereas I was an adult when all that started. So that makes a difference in how it's seen. The same thing could be said for technology. I've got two little sisters who are just turning 20, about to be, some of them 21, who, no joke, do not know what life without a smartphone is. Never experienced it. Never will. I mean, unless they quit paying their cell phone bills, but still. That level of technology, that level of being plugged in is unreal. They've had Facebook and MySpace and social media and smartphones the entire time they were growing up as teenagers and preteens. In fact, Hannah will be, So one of my sisters, they'll both be 20 in the coming year. One this year and then one next year. Not 21, my bad. But I digress. So it's kind of neat how we define ourselves. It really is. And I would like to say, I'm part of this Oregon Trail generation, because I can remember not being plugged in, but I also grew up with the technology. I grew up with the technology. I was an adult by 1999. Well, legally. I'm still pretty much a big fucking kid, but still. Anyways, the technology happened as I was a young adult and into my 20s, and then really took root in my late 20s. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm fairly technologically savvy, whereas in like my old man or some of my older cousins, not so much. And some of them are pretty on point with it. Some of them aren't. Actually, come to think about it, most of my older cousins are all within this Oregon Trail generation, if you think about the dates. So, it's one of those things. What's your take on it? I mean, so what do you think about everything that's going on? Do you see yourself as the generation as it's defined within the substructure, or do you see it as just a tracking tool for populace? Hit me up in the comments below. Like, dislike, or subscribe. It's on you. Have a good one.